If you're Australian or have ever lived in Australia, you'll know this question very well. Which question? Well, you'll find it on pretty much every government form, as well as other forms. This is just a random Centrelink form that I found online. Question 17. Read this before answering the following question. This question is voluntary and will not affect your payment. This question is almost always optional as far as I'm aware, but it's always asked. Are you of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander Australian descent? No? Yes, Aboriginal Australian. Yes, Torres Strait Islander Australian. Now I'm going to say something perhaps controversial, but I think this question needs to be deleted from all forms to save Australia from itself. I think despite its good intentions, it's maintaining a divide between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians that does not need to exist. Let me explain. First of all, I'd just like to tell you what prompted me to make this video. I was at a shopping centre and to sign into their free Wi-Fi, I had to provide some basic details like name, date of birth and so on, noting that I always make up these details. I'm not going to give some random shopping centre my real name unless I legally have to. Anyway, one of the questions was, are you of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander origin? And I thought, what does that matter? Why would they need that information? It didn't matter because I was providing fake information anyway. But that begs the question, what is the purpose of this question? How is this helping anybody? Knowing that Aboriginal people are using the free Wi-Fi? Keeping tabs on their internet usage? It's almost laughable. Sometimes I think businesses are including this question just for the sake of including it, or as some sort of display of being progressive. If we look at the government form, it states, if you do answer, the information will help us to continue to improve services to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians. That's a rather vague and generic response and doesn't really answer my question. How does it help? How does knowing if you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous help Indigenous Australians? Do you know what I think? Constantly asking this question is keeping an artificial divide between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. The very fact that the government keeps asking this question means they see some sort of inherent difference between us and them. If equality is the goal, how is treating one group of people, based purely on their ethnicity or ancestry, bringing us closer to equality? It isn't. Indian Australians don't have to tick a special box. German Australians don't have to tick a box. So why then are Indigenous Australians constantly being reminded that they are not the same as the rest of us? If I was Indigenous, I would refuse to answer this question. According to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, why am I being asked this question? Because we ask everybody. Personally, I don't think that answers the question at all. It just seems like they're trying to hide the fact that they're trying to keep tabs on Indigenous people. Because information is important. I think this is closer to the real reason. To make good decisions for the health of Indigenous Australians, it is important to properly collect data on non-Indigenous patients as well as on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patients. This allows us to better understand how health issues for Indigenous Australians might be the same as or different to other Australians. State governments even have learning modules dedicated to asking the question, improving the identification of Aboriginal people, as if Aboriginal people are simply something to be identified. It's quite demeaning if you ask me. So in summary, the government are collecting information on Indigenous Australians to ostensibly help them, right? Well, this has been going on for years. Every year, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars is assigned to helping Indigenous Australians. And has it worked? Well, according to the most recent Productivity Commission report, Australian governments are making Indigenous disadvantage worse. All this money, all this effort, this constant monitoring and tracking of Indigenous people by questioning whether they're Indigenous or not is clearly not helping. According to an inquiry commissioned by the Parliament of Australia, Indigenous Australians remain the most disadvantaged and marginalised group in Australia. On all the standard indicators of poverty and disadvantage, Indigenous people emerge as the most socially and economically deprived. So what does this question achieve? If I was Aboriginal, I would hate to be constantly asked this question. It's like I'm inherently different from everybody else. The government are constantly treating me like I'm somehow incapable of looking after myself and need the government to help me run my life, whereas other Australians do not need the same help. As I said before, it's almost demeaning, hence why I think we need to stop asking this question. It's divisive, it's paternalistic, it's not helping. It's just a constant reminder that the government see Indigenous people as somehow different. It's like they're trying to track and monitor you in order to help you, which clearly hasn't worked. Of course, none of this means I think Aboriginal people should be ignored, certainly not. But if we want equality, we need to stop constantly pointing out our differences all the time. We need to delete this question. Look, perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps deleting this question won't solve anything, but it might put us on track of removing this artificial divide.